we all know now the late Atal Bihari ji had coined that doctrine which said Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat and Kashmiriyat. And of course, the former Prime Minister was talking about the three pillars that would define his Kashmir policy. And those would be humanity, democracy, and syncretism. And of course, rightly so, Vajpayee ji's remarks, they found resonance in all quarters, and his words continue to be repeated by successive governments. But unfortunately, I don't know, somehow I feel that they were more idealistic than pragmatic or real. Frankly, first of all, the generosity of spirit that was expressed through Vajpayee's doctrine resulted in, of course, the Lahore bus trip, which was repaid to us through the Kargil war and the IC-814 hijack and the attack on Indian Parliament. And of course, subsequently, Manmohan Singh ji also undertook the Srinagar and Muzaffarabad bus service, which was repaid with 2611. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's own surprise Lahore stopover to meet Nawaz Sharif in 2015 was repaid with Uri, Pathankot, and Pulwama. So should we ask ourselves whether the doctrine which was proposed by Vajpayee ji was realistic? And so if we look at the first part of that doctrine, which is insaniyat or humanity. Now, the word humanity itself is derived from the Latin word humanitas, meaning human nature and kindness. But insaniyat has been missing from the region for a long, long time. Some estimates indicate that around 60,000 people have died from 1989 to 2020 during this insurgency. But the numbers, the quantitative stuff, masks the horror of each death. As there is a famous quote, and it is attributed, actually misattributed to Stalin, which says, the death of one man is a tragedy, but the death of millions is a statistic. Think about, let's go back to 1990. I'm just giving you particularly a single example. There was a Kashmiri Pandit called Ashok Kumar Kazi, and he was shot dead. But before he died, his knees were shattered, his hair was plucked out, and his body was urinated on. As recently as 2017, an Indian police officer, Muhammad Ayub Pandit, was lynched by a mob of 200 people outside the Jamia Masjid. He was stripped naked and beaten with stones and iron rods. His body was recovered in a mutilated state. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, where is insaniyat to be found in this insanity? It is more insanity than insaniyat. Then let's take up the next pillar of Vajpayee ji's doctrine, which is Jamhuriyat. Now, the word Jamhuriyat is actually from the Ottoman Turkish word, which is Jamhuriyat. That means a republic or a democracy. Now, of course, we love to be reminded by certain people that India had a commitment to a Kashmiri plebiscite, but they conveniently omit mentioning that the so-called UN Resolution 47 required that Pakistan withdraw all its nationals as a precondition, which was a withdrawal that never happened. And the funny thing, and this really strikes me as odd, the very politicians who are now crying hoarse about the so-called murder of democracy through the repeal of Article 370 and the downgrading of the state to a union territory were content to rig the J&K Legislative Assembly elections in cahoots with Delhi on multiple occasions in the past. And remember also that prior to the repeal of Article 370, the Valmiki community was resigned to a life of sweeping and sanitation. They were denied permanent residence, voting rights, access to higher education or government jobs. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, were the Valmikis not entitled to Jamhuriyat also? So that leaves us with the final pillar, which is Kashmiriyat, implying a supposed tradition of communal harmony and religious syncretism in the region. But what happened a few months ago? I mean, I'm going to mention a few names that I remember: Makhanlal Bindru, Supinder Kaur, Virinder Paswan, Deepak Chand. These were all Hindu targets being killed. It reminds one eerily of the 1990s, in which hit lists of Kashmiri Pandits were being circulated while local newspaper ads were exhorting the community to either leave or to convert to Islam. Where was Kashmiriyat hiding when threatening slogans from the loudspeakers of mosques forced thousands of Pandits to flee their homes. Of around 75,000 Kashmiri Pandit families, more than 70,000 fled in those 2 years between 1990 and 92 alone. But the process, frankly, did not start in the 1990s or in 1989. As far back as 1931, anti-Hindu sentiments had been whipped up, leading to the region's first major riot. It was done to destabilize Maharaja Hari Singh's Dogra monarchy, and the beneficiary of that polarization was Sheikh Abdullah. So looking at today's Muslim majority Kashmir Valley, it is easy to forget that Kashmir was part of the Maurya Empire and then the Kushan Empire before falling to the Huns and then the Karakotas, the Utpalas, and the Loharas. One forgets that the land derived its name from the goddess Kashmira and the sage Kashyap. One forgets that it was a thriving Buddhist and Shaivite culture until Sikandar Shah decided to forcibly Islamize it. There is an often repeated opinion that the problems of Kashmir are related to the decline of tolerant Sufi traditions and the rise of intolerant Salafism. The fact is that Sikandar Shah's Islamic zeal was itself inspired by a Sufi preacher, Mir Muhammad Hamdani. So does it even make sense then to talk of a historical Kashmiriyat? So the question that then I asked myself is that if Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat and Kashmiriyat cannot be the basis for lasting peace, then what should be? And amongst the so-called woke, left, liberal, secular lobby, they love Urdu. So I decided that I will find my own Urdu words in order to explain what is going on in Kashmir right now. So let me propose 3 new Urdu buzzwords to replace the old ones: Maishat, Hifazat, and Abadiyat. Economy, security, demography. Create economic prosperity and employment. Focus on internal and external security, and encourage migration into the region from other parts of India. That's exactly the Kashmir policy that I would like to see. But to my mind, this is pretty much the policy that the government seems to be working on already.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.